Okay, so we're going to start out in pretty much the worst scenario for white, with white on the back row here, and black in opposition with white's king. It's going to take exactly 13 moves to checkmate from this position, and we're going to follow a formula that makes it very easy. So the first move we're going to make is rook a2. And you may wonder why not rook a1. Well, I will get to that shortly, but for now we're going to start with rook a2. And now black is going to want to make white's life as hard as possible and delay the mate as long as possible. So he's going to play king c5. And the first thing we want to do is box black's king in. So we're going to play rook d2, and now we are cutting off the d file. And as this endgame progresses, we're going to push him further towards the side here. So black's going to make our life difficult and play king c6. And now our plan from this position is to push our king down along this b file, and right now we can't do it because we can't move our king forward because black is blocking our king. We don't want to go to a7, so what we have to do is waste a move with the rook and stay on the d file and get as far away from the black king as possible, and we play rook d1. And that is the clue as to why we started with rook a2, because we need to waste a move in this position, and when we waste a move, it's good to have the rook as far away from the black king as possible. So black could play king b6, but then we're going to play rook c1 and box black's king in even further. If he were to play rook a6, we'd play rook b1. And that's the general theme of this endgame, is that every time black steps off this file, for instance, he goes left, then we're going to cut him off, and if he goes left again, we're going to cut him off again. Now, keep in mind that when black steps left, he is in opposition with white's king. So if black were to play king c5, we're going to play king b7, king c4, king b5, and of course if he steps off the file, we're going to make the box shorter. So let's say black keeps going towards our rook, king c3, king b5, and king c2. So now at this point, what we're going to do is move the rook up next to the white king, and what we're going to try to force black into is a scenario where he has to step to the side. So if king c3, how do we get black to step to the side? Well, we have to waste a move, so we just move the rook again. And now you can see that black cannot stay on the third rank without stepping to the side, but then we can cut him off like this. If he goes down, we push him down again. And if he goes down again, we push him down again, and he's just getting mated after rook d1 checkmate. So that's what's going to happen if we push him all the way to the edge of the board. what happens if we play rook c6 here? And now, let's say he plays king b2. We're going to push him now with king b4. And let's say he plays king a2. Now at this point, we're going to do a maneuver which is very effective, and you have to memorize this maneuver and pull it off very quickly. And the maneuver is king c3. Now first off, if black were to play king a3 here, he just gets mated. So you have to be ready for that one. And the second one you have to be ready for is king b1, in which case you simply play king b3. He's cut off from the c file, he has to move into the corner, and then you checkmate. So finally, if king a1, we play king c2, and then king a2 and checkmate. So there's three possibilities: king a1, king b1, and king a3. So you just memorize them very quickly and get used to finishing the game like that, and you'll save precious time. Let's go back to this position. Now let's say black goes for a rook right away instead of going back up to c6. So it goes king c4. So what we're going to do is play king b7, and we're always going to stay on the b file, where black's king will have to move in front of our king. And the main reason is that if we were to go on the c file and black moved to the side, maybe he can slip under or something. This is just a system that I've developed to do this very easily. So let's say he plays king c5. Now we need to waste a tempo, and then we can continue pushing him down the board. King c4, king b6, king c3, king b5, king c2, and rook d4, king c3, and again we need to push him down the board or force him to go to the side. So we waste the tempo, and if king b3 we cut him off, and if king c2 we push him down, if king b2 we cut him off, king b1 we can just take the opposition and he's mated. If king a3 we do the maneuver again. There's that. And finally, there's that. So that pretty much covers this entire scenario. One thing I didn't cover though was rook a2. So king c5, king d4. Let's say he goes down. King b7, king c3. Okay, so we go rook d5, king c4, king c6, king b4, rook c5, king a5, rook b5, and I didn't cover this scenario. And here we can mate very quickly. He only has one legal move, king a3. And I found that the easiest way to do this is just to drop the rook all the way back. And if if he moves up, we just move down, and then we've got him in this situation where if he ever moves up, he gets mated, and if he keeps moving down, eventually he has to move up. So king a4, king c4, king a2, king c3, king a1, king c2, king a2, and rook a8, checkmate. One thing that can happen here is even though rook b8 is really, I think, the easiest way to do it, if you were to play from this position, I think rook b8 is the easiest way to do it. If you were to play rook b6, king a4, king c5, and king a5, this position can trip people up because naturally you'd want to just kind of retreat the rook, and then it gets a little confusing because he sidesteps, you can't checkmate him yet, and what do? Do you waste a tempo? Do you go back? And then you've got this, but it's just a little confusing in the moment, and there's a much easier way to mate. So from this position, the pattern is very simple. You just go here, here, and here. Sorry, I think I got that wrong. Hold on. Okay, sorry. I'm off by one rank here. You go here, here, and here. So you just go here. He has to step up, block his escape, boom, and boom. So if this was blitz and you got into this position with the king diagonal to the rook, and here you are, you just boom, boom, boom. Just memorize that and you can quickly win. But instead we're just gonna, it's the same number of moves to mate if we do it my way. So rook b8, and then king a4, king c5, and if he tries to get tricky, get ready to checkmate him. So that is the most difficult start position that we can start with, and if we start from a different position, it's basically going to be the same thing. If you've learned the lessons from this position, you can apply them to any of the starting positions, and you may not get the perfect finish every time, but I think if you use this method, you'll have under 12 moves for sure. Most likely you might mess up here or there, but if you really understand how this works, you're gonna have a very quick checkmate. And I'm not sure how quick I can do it. I'm gonna train against AI and see if I can do it in under 2 seconds. And thanks for listening.